founded in this week's Torah portion. You've heard of Vayera before. It's in Israel. It's sort of the Scottsdale. Although I always say that Scottsdale is sort of Be'er meets Beverly Hills. Be'er is founded in this week's Parsha. Lot's wife turns into a pillar of salt. I could go on, and I will. But what we typically focus on when we look at this week's Parsha is one of those three stories. But one of the things that we often miss is the good news that one of the first three angels gives to Sarah, our matriarch. And what is that good news? No, not that she's pregnant, but she's going to have a baby, which is the same thing, as it turns out. Now, what we call barren wife motif in the Bible is clear. It's prevalent all over the Bible. This motif of a woman being barren, not able to... as soon as the Torah teaches us at some point that there is a woman named X, Y, or Z, and she is barren, what do we know? She's not, right? That she's going to have a child at some point. And as you all know, Sarah's reaction is to say what when this angel shares the good news? To laugh. And so her son is going to be called Yitzchak, which means he will laugh, or laughter, right? It is in the name. The name is from the moment, the reaction, Sarah's, I guess, humor, that she is quite old and finds it to be a little bit surreal. After all, this is an angel talking to her, that she's going to have a child, and that, as she says, it will be named Yitzchak. He will be named Yitzchak. So, one of the things that, like I say, we pass over, we don't really spend a lot of time studying this part of the story, although there's something that is very valuable that we can learn from it. Something very valuable within not only Sarah's reaction, but how she directly responds to God, and then how God speaks to or shares with Abraham Sarah's reaction. God, in many ways, is the great triangulator. God speaks to different characters in the Torah, and then sometimes has to report to other characters the conversations that he had with the former. He has to share what the former said with the latter. So, does anyone know? The interaction's going quite well. Does anyone know, so I'm going to keep it going, what Sarah actually says to God when she laughs? More or less what she says. She doesn't just say, ha, 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 that's funny. What does she say to God directly, Lindsay? I'm old. And what specifically? Oh, she says, I'm old. That's what you're saying. No, that's not what she says. That's what God sort of reports to Abraham that Sarah said, but that's not what she says. What does Sarah say? So you're half right. That's what God, the great triangulator, reports to Abraham. What does Sarah say? Huh? I'm sorry. God is laughing at? No. What does Sarah say to God? To the angel? Huh? Adele? How can it happen? Yes, sir. How can I bear a child? I'm 90. Yeah. Okay, you're all kind of right, and then that's how God reports it to Abraham. But in this Parsha, in Vayera, that's not exactly what happens. It says, God reveals to Abraham and Sarah through this angel that they're going to have a son in about a year. Sarah is, you were right, 90 years old. Do you know how old Abraham was? 100. Right? They're just, he's a little bit of a cradle robber, but that's not a problem. When you're up to that number, who's counting, right? And Sarah gives vent this way. This is how she responds. She says, "Am I to have enjoyment with my husband so old?" See, you all thought that Sarah's first reaction was what the report of her reaction was, because you all didn't want to hurt Abraham's feelings either. Sarah said, that old fart is never going to be able no pharmaceuticals in the Torah. He's never going to be able to impregnate me. He's never, ever going to be able to work his magic, so to speak. Sarah's response to God is, how in God's name is Abraham, that old guy, going to get me pregnant? Now, the report you were all right about, the report to Abraham, God actually lies to him. He modifies, let's say, well, we don't want to say God's a liar. So let's say God modifies, changes some words around. And it's easier to do that in the translation sometimes than in Hebrew, and says that Sarah instead said, in a self-deprecating tone, "Shall I in truth bear a child old as I am?" And you see the subtle difference between the two. And we learned from this part of the Parsha that God teaches us something very important. That in order to save Abraham's feelings, to protect Abraham's feelings from what Sarah said, and that is a very, very Jewish wife kind of thing to say, right? That old guy. But Abraham is a very sensitive guy, like most of us Jewish men, very, very sensitive. And so God modifies. God lies. He actually reports something different. Now, this whole conversation, for those of you who are going to wonder about this, is something that typically we don't focus on. But I want us to just spend one moment on it. God is, Rabbi Bradley Shavit-Artson, who is the dean of the American Jewish University in Los Angeles, says the following. Rashi, he teaches the following, before Rashi. God is willing to ignore questions of integrity in order to preserve Abraham's dignity and the peace between husband and wife. Just in case you were wondering, why did God decide to modify the response? It's for what we call, does anyone know what that concept of keeping peace in the home is called? So we always say it's shalom bayit, peace in the home, but it's actually not shalom bayit. It's shlom bayit. And there is a subtle difference. One is shalom bayit, which is peace in the home, but shlom bayit is for wholeness, for the home to be whole, for there not to be any disruptions or domestic disputes. A household must be whole. It's just a small little difference. It's the same root. Shalom, shalem are the same root. But instead of peace in the home, it really means completeness in the home, or wholeness, a home that is whole. So he uses Rashi. He says, Rashi, as we know, a French commentator from about 1,000 years ago, says that Scripture, the Torah, altered Sarah's statement in the interest of peace. Mipnei darkei shalom, for the sake of peace, we are instructed by Jewish wisdom to modify our statements. Honesty, while precious, is not an ultimate Jewish value. Important as it is to tell the truth, honesty retains its preeminence because it helps human beings live together in peace. On occasion, however, for all the kids in the room, on occasion, however, did I make that clear? It's okay to say that the harsh truth, the direct truth, the utter truth, or as we like to say, the what truth? The what? No, not the whole truth. What do we like to say? The bitter truth? The harsh truth? What? The absolute truth can be hurtful. It can be actually hurtful. And it can not only be hurtful, but it can actually damage a relationship. And in that instance, Rashi teaches us, it is more important to protect a person's feelings, self-worth, and love. Now, everyone's probably heard at some point this famous instruction from the Talmud, from the rabbinic teachings of the 1st through 5th century of the Common Era, that states that on her wedding day, a bride is always told that she is beautiful. Always told that she is beautiful, even when she's not. A baby is always told that he or she is beautiful, even when they're not. We don't give the bitter, direct, honest truth if it's going to hurt someone's feelings. We modify it. And sometimes, infrequently, we have to be dishonest in order to protect the sake of peace in the home. And so the question I have for you on this Shabbat, do not, by the way, and I have it on live stream, and I will have it on YouTube by Monday, this little drosh. Do not go home. What did the Rabbi Kahn talk about? He told us it's okay to lie. Boys and girls, I did not. There is a big difference between lying and modifying. If it's okay to tell a bride that she is beautiful on her wedding day, if it's okay for God to tell Abraham that what Sarah said was there would be no way for her to conceive at the age of 90, and if there are times when we receive a gift or we see someone, that we say thank you and how beautiful the gift was, even if it wasn't, for the sake of not hurting someone's feelings, for the sake of not making someone upset, destroying their sense of self, their self-esteem, it's okay to modify. Now, in our society, I will tell you, as a parent and as I see parents, we've gone too far in modifying the truth, right? Every painting that our kids draw in preschool is a Picasso, and every 68 that they get on a test is okay because they tried their hardest. It's a 68. It's not that great. When I grew up, a 68 was unacceptable. Right? We've gone a little bit too far. But the essence of the teaching is that there are times when we have to take other people's feelings into consideration. That according to the Torah and according to Vayera and according to this Parsha, which, as I said at the beginning, is so filled with knowledge and teaching and understanding of Jewish tradition, of core values of Judaism. One of the things I love most about Judaism, the thing I love most about Judaism is in this Parsha, Abraham's argument with God about destroying Sodom and Gomorrah, about not destroying. The idea in Judaism that we get to argue with God, like in God's face. Abraham, you would think, has a lot of chutzpah, but that's what Jews do. We argue even with God. We argue even with God. That is what I love most about Judaism. It's in this Parsha. But this idea, too, I love a lot as well. Because according to this teaching, and according to the tradition, God, it shows, cares a lot about our feelings, about human feelings, especially God's chosen first patriarch and matriarch of the Jewish people, in this case, Abraham. Rabbi Artson says that honesty in the service of compassion and growth is a mitzvah, commandment. Even if the truth is the painful truth, honesty at the expense of another human being's feelings, simply to air one's own viewpoint, is a betrayal of God. And I want to leave you with that thought. I'll say it one more time, because he says it so beautifully, that there are different levels of honesty, and a lot of it has to do with what our intention is. And we see it all around us, all the time. Just watch these presidential debates. Just watch talk shows. Just watch anything or read anything that you see where there are altercations between people. There's this idea out there that I am the one who has the truth, and therefore I must share it with everyone, including those who are standing right next to me. I'll read it again. Honesty in the service of compassion and growth is a mitzvah, a commandment, even if the truth is painful. But honesty at the expense of another human's feelings, simply to air one's own viewpoint, is a betrayal of God. And so on this Shabbat, have a conversation about this. Have a conversation with your spouse, with your kids, with your friends. It is very important for us to be honest with each other. There is no doubt that the Torah is not telling us that we should not be honest with each other. But what the Torah is telling us, with God as the role model, and you don't get a better role model than God, what the Torah is telling us is it's not okay to hurt someone's feelings, to make someone feel pain because you've decided to be honest with them in a way that will cause them pain, that is insensitive. Modify what you say to other people. Modify how you say things to other people. Don't always think I'm going to have to give you the truth, the whole truth, and the painful truth because it serves you. Protect your friends, protect your loved ones, protect your family, and be very careful. Very, very careful with what words you use and how we use them, because it can really, really hurt, if not destroy someone. And if God is conscientious of that, if God is teaching us that, if we learn in this Parsha with Abraham, our father, and Sarah, our mother, that there are times and occasions when it can be modified so as not to hurt the other human being, the other person who we love, then that's a beautiful teaching. Shabbat Shalom.